keeps talking and talking and talking this nonsense about absorbing electrons from the floor. Whatever. I've long since stopped caring about why you're barefoot. Okay? That's how adults would talk about this. No, we don't have cetacean ops. Nor do we have whales at all, for that matter. We have jellyfish ops. It's a little strange, but I'll show it to you right now. Yep. There it is. It's right there. This is Beta Test, the second episode of Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1. Beta Test as in Beta Z, because we're bringing Beta Z back into the Federation, or we are attempting to. But I knew that this was recent Star Trek, and given that, we would have Beta Z back into the Federation in about one episode. And spoilers, that's pretty much what we do. If you were going to write this season, and you brought up this idea that we need to get Beta Z back in the Federation, and I was in that writer's room, let's say I'm the showrunner, I would say, okay, we're going to get like a good 3 or 4 seasons out of trying to get Beta Z back into the Federation, because it would be that complicated. No, we can do it in one season? No, one episode, as it were. These things are so complicated, and methinks the writers don't really understand that. The reality of, reality and the reality of Star Trek, because Star Trek was so great because it didn't shy away from the complexities of reality. It made things, the harsh reality of things was put at the forefront, but also we had our own way of fixing things, our own way of looking at it, and our own perspective on that. And that perspective was, being hopeful about it, trying again, getting up when you fall down, succeeding eventually through a lot of struggle, the stars. But this isn't really it. And this is going to be a very kind of strange and odd review that's going to be very meta, because this episode is very strange and odd. But in a sense, that's kind of a compliment. This is, deflating my fears that I had about this show just being Discovery 2. It is not, if this episode is anything to go by. This episode is clearly Starfleet Academy. We're at school. And that's about that. And you can have boring, kind of average action space adventure show, which we had with the first episode. Or you can have this. And I must say, I felt tinges of this before, having reviewed previous Star Trek episodes that were outliers in genre or style. But this one is the first time I felt like, am I supposed to be watching this show? Am I supposed to be here? I felt like I wasn't I'm not invited to this party. What I mean by that is, it says Star Trek. Are you allowed to have certain expectations? Back when we imagined a Starfleet Academy show, we imagined it because, correctly or not, we were hoping to see things that we had already seen before, but in an earlier form. Oh, it's Captain Kirk's Academy days. Looking back, that idea seems bad now, but back in the day, a lot of people kind of wanted that. And now I think that was foolhardy. That was not properly thought through. It's better to have new things. This is new, but it is very different. Because it says Star Trek, I expect Star Trek. But because it says Academy, I know it's going to be completely different. And this is actually a show that I am not really the target audience here. And I can tell that because for the first time, the show episode felt incomprehensible. It felt like a different language. It felt like I was seeing people speak in a language I did not understand. Cinematically, visually, tonally. In a broad sense, imagine if you had been a fan of Star Trek your whole life, and then a show came out called Star Trek Trains, and let's just say that you don't know anything about trains. Nothing. Would you watch the show called Star Trek Trains? I do not care about trains. I'm speaking personally, you may love trains. I do not know anything about trains. Therefore, a show about trains would have no purpose for me, to watch it. There would be nothing. What would I get out of it? I'm sure I would learn about trains, but did I want previously to learn about trains? I don't. Probably not, maybe. I don't know. This show is called Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Oh wow, it's an academy. Do I want to learn about an academy? Do I want to know about kids, as they say in this show? I don't know. There's a little bit of a preamble for you, but this episode, beta test, that preamble is apt because we're back, we're grounded, we're at the school, we're in San Francisco, and we're getting into our new digs, that being our quarters. Of course, this causes a problem between, who is it, Darem, Reymi, and Caleb Mir. See, they can't be in the same room together. A Brickar walks by, that is Rocktack's species from Prodigy. It looks exactly like Rocktack, but like brown. It looks like they used the model. It looks like the same 3D model. Where we go into, I believe, what is a turbo lift, and there's an exocomp. After 800 and some years. We know the exocomp. You know the exocomp if you previous Star Trek. It's a mechanical person, in a sense. It is a machine. Why would it look exactly the same after this long amount of time, if not to stoke up feelings of remembrance, emotion, nostalgia? Did we stunt cast an entire race? I don't know really what you call it, but they are a unique being, an exocomp. Did we just put that there as a stunt? It's not different. It didn't change. We don't talk to them. They're there as a prop. They sit down, and then they keep moving, and the exocomp just keeps moving over the way. Why are they doing that? They're reacting like they're not there, which make the CGI look more fake than it actually is. Watch this turn out to be a puppet or something on strings. I don't know. But it looked awful. It was shot very bad. I don't know why you would keep pushing someone over like that. The doctor keeps doing it. I just... What I'm saying is, the Brickar, Rocktax race, the exocomp, rapid succession, gunfire into my brain of things that I'm supposed to remember, but why are they there? Why are they not different? You got to put the effort in, right? That's not a huge mark against this episode, because this episode is not designed for people who are going to analyze that way. This is not for the people who are going to really think about it, I guess. I'm not trying to throw any shade at a younger audience. I'm really not, because they're smart. They can be very, very smart. And I remember when TNG was marketed to little kids, right? Nowadays, you would say kids don't want to watch that soap opera about people talking, but they had TNG things on cereal. Okay, they had ads with kids under 10. I had Star Trek toys when I was under 10. And now when you explicitly aim it at someone of that age, and you dumb it down, I don't even want to say that, you reduce the difficulty level of its content, I guess, in order to appeal, as they say, to this new audience, the young adults. Are you not reducing the point to which they can aspire when you do that? I mean, the kids are insulting each other. They're learning in this atmosphere of... It's such an open concept. They really want to use the sets design that they made, and the sets are beautiful. They're big. They really want to use it. It looks hard to learn in a gigantic set where it's so open concept. I've never experienced that in my life. I've experienced rooms with walls, right? And hushed tones and quiet. This is not high school. Somehow I think the people who wrote this are confusing this with public school or high school, in a sense. It's not the same. You're here, I guess, because you want to be here. People go through the public school system or some other school system when they're young at the behest of their parents, or in many cases it's illegal not to. They don't want to be there. When you understand that, it completely changes the dynamic. When I was in college, for example, something happens in this episode that reminded me. I immediately watched it and I said, no, they think this is high school. And I'll show you where. It is the moment where Caleb is in a class with Jet Reno. And why is Jet Reno teaching, I don't know, engineering? Just, she's from almost 1,000 years ago. She's an interesting curio. They could teach history. It's very cool to have them around, but what are you teaching about engineering? They themselves would have to go back to school for years. Did they do that? I don't know. Maybe they did. But we just wanted to have that character back, and I kind of did too, because I actually kind of like Jet Reno. But she interrupts Caleb Mears' effort to search for his mom on his pad. She interrupts her own lesson when she sees Caleb Mears' pad is displaying something that's not about the topic. So what? He was not interrupting the class. You were here because you want to be here. If you were not paying attention, it's because you already know everything, and you're working on something else, and just waiting for the test/exam. That's how it was when I was at college. I had a teacher look over at my desk one time, at my little thing, my paper. They walked by, and I was working on a different problem. And they said, "Oh, you got this, don't worry about it," and kept walking. I was working on a problem that was after the problem that they were doing. They didn't mind if I just left. They don't care. It doesn't matter. This is not high school. It can be assumed that you're here because you want to be here. You know, I don't know where they were, but they really want these kids to be younger than they actually are. Are we aiming this at the, a 14 to 20 audience, or like a 20 to 30 audience? I don't know. But breaking reality like that one too many times, it's not super. I'd never felt in this episode that it was very respectful to the audience you wanted. I will say that. And are you doing them a favor by portraying school that you elect to go to as a place that is just going to feed you mindless, platitudes like we get from Ake this whole episode, and worse from her? Really? That's not what it is. It's poring over books, or in this case, looking at pads, just constantly. I read so many books. Okay. You never stop imbibing information, right? Because you were going in there, they're thinking from zero essentially, and no, you can't. You're not really starting from absolute zero, but they're building you up, and that's a hard thing to do if you're just sitting there getting fed nebulous lessons about how to socialize with people. And there's definitely a lot of that in reality, but it's just, when does that kind of end? And when does that end, and when does the hard work begin? I haven't seen any hard work yet. And I don't know, is this the next day or a week later? I don't know. Where were they sleeping, by the way, before they got their quarters? I was thinking that too. This whole episode, it doesn't have much of a plot. We're trying to get Beta Z back in the Federation, and I don't know, the president, head of state, leader, whatever they call him, of Beta Z is on site. And they're negotiating, Admiral Vance is, with him to get him back into the Federation, and they mention the War College, which is like another wing of Starfleet here that kept Starfleet safe during the burn, as they say. And they introduce this guy who represents the War College, and I knew they were just going to clown on him. I knew they were just going to make fun of him. Just the way he is, the way he's presented, the way he's dressed. He's just there for comic relief. That's a new thing. That's a new one. Back when we had Barclay, we made fun of him at our peril. It was bad. We knew it was wrong, right? And we fixed it. And then when you get into New Trek, you get, what was that short Trek? The Problem with Edward or something like that, where we just make fun of someone until they die. The first episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, we make fun of someone and clown on them and then they die. And now we bring in this guy from the war college and we're just mopping the floor with him. Why? Why do we keep doing this to our own people? And then Nahla Ake walks up barefoot. He says you shouldn't be doing that. And then like a 13-year-old, I thought she was hundreds of years old, but she sounds like she's 13. Nahla Ake does not just say, I just want to. She says she gives a myriad of nonsense reasons why it's good to do this. That's what immature people do. They don't just say they want to. They have to come up with an entire world of reasons for why it's the good thing to do. You'll notice this if you talk to people who are like 12 to 15 and they're a particularly astute like 14-year-old. They don't say they like it. They say, oh, I think oranges are good because they're healthy for you and blah, 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 blah. No. If Nahla Ake is allowed to be barefoot, I would assume that she is allowed because she is doing it. Otherwise, she would not. I would just say, that's interesting. You're barefoot. Yeah, I like to go barefoot. End of conversation. But she doesn't. She keeps talking and talking and talking this nonsense about absorbing electrons from the floor. Whatever. I've long since stopped caring about why you're barefoot. Okay? That's how adults would talk about this. Like if you're one of these writers, whatever school you've been to, I don't know where, but you deal with people who walk around barefoot to get attention because they want to talk to people, because they want to stand out. No pun intended. I don't know. I can't really figure it. I do not have I'm not the same. I'm not in the same headspace as them, so I cannot understand it. Right? I'm watching this show from a different planet, as it would seem. But we use this to kind of get a slam dunk on the war college guy, and probably Admiral Vance if he was there in the line of fire of Nahla Ake. Nahla Ake does talk to the Beta Z leader. I don't know why they let her talk to him. She makes it so much worse. She is not a negotiator, which is bad for a captain, I will tell you. If you need to understand the terms here, you need to understand what you're trying to get. You need to fairly be able to analyze what you have and what you don't have. And you need to know who's starting from a higher position. Like who has more to gain and more to lose. We're trying to get Beta Z into the Federation. We are the people trying to get something. We want to capture the thing. Nahla Ake instead lectures the guy from Beta Z about Beta Z. That's the one thing you would not do. You would not do that. You want to make yourself look weak here. You want to say, we need you, okay, and you're operating because we need this thing. You're operating from the position of power. We're gonna let you think that to get you in our tent, okay? So tactically here, their first offer from Beta Z included, we need 14 starships. We'll take down our psionic wall, psychic wall, whatever it was. I can't really remember what it was, even though I just rewatched it. And we want to have veto power on new members. Okay. I was thinking, yep, let's go with it. But they said no, because we can't let you having veto powers to decide who the new members are, because we want to be able to democratically vote on who gets in. Okay. My instinct was to say yes. Huh? Are you crazy? No, I don't think I'm that crazy. Let them in. And then later, when they try to veto, we'll just make up some other nonsense. Right? Once they're in, they're in. They're in like Flynn. I bet you that's how it would work. Right? I bet we're letting them think they got the control. They're in here. We have starships there. Right? They want to veto someone's entry. We'll say, no, you're going to be defensive without us. You're right. You have now learned that you need that defense. We're in. Like it's, and you can argue, can't you re-litigate this later? We'll let you have veto power for 5 years. That's not that long amount of time. I was thinking their initial offer was not that bad. And I know that it's not good to let Beta Z be able to decide who goes in and who goes out. But they're not going to be having that power forever. Right? Am I right? I don't know. Instead, we say, no, we want to be able to remember this. We want to be able to vote on who gets in. Remember, that's important. The democratic angle is important here for later. You see that the Beta Z leader's daughter, Tarima, is here. And I don't know how this happens, but she instantly falls in love with Caleb Mir. They go on a flight of fancy. Caleb Mir is on a fence. You're thinking about leaving this place. You're literally on the fence. Because he really was on the fence. He did climb the fence that suspiciously had holes in it that looked like it was for climbing. If it's for climbing, what's the point of the barrier? If it's designed to be climbed, what does it do? He managed to escape with Tarima, and they go to look at some kind of, I don't know, cetacean ops. They have whales. She wanted to see the whale. She's pregnant. Tarima can tell, I guess, because she's Beta Z. She does have a limiter on her neck somehow that limits her psychic powers. Otherwise, because she's so psychically powerful, she can hurt people. Boo-hoo. There's our character that's just going through trauma, right? Where we take a character and we hurt them a lot, and that makes them interesting. By the way, Caleb Mir is revealed on multiple occasions to be hacking everything. Because he's a genius, of course. Whenever we have a character that we're writing this plot, we're writing it backwards. We have to have our character get through so many death-defying situations that it's beyond belief. So what do? Oh, wait, they're a genius. How many times have you seen this, right? We need our character to be basically perfect at everything, to get through the things we throw at them. So we just have to write that they're extremely smart. Right? It's such an obvious thing now. You've seen it a million times. How about a character that becomes smart? That would be cool. That would be aspirational. But that's not what we're doing here. Caleb Mir starts off insanely smart, I guess, as was his mother. Because as you know, I guess it's passed down, right? It's passed down. You can't just become smart. And because of this, he's so smart. He keeps hacking terminals to look for his mother, to look for this place. What is it, Goja 5? And you just got let back into the good graces of Nahla and Starfleet itself after hacking the computer on the Athena and almost killing everyone because of it. You just barely survived. That's not all skill. There's a lot of luck involved. It's not all skill. Okay? That could have been the one that got you and everyone else killed. You got back in and you're still hacking these terminals. It's not just that you hacked them for fun. It's not about that what you did at that exact moment that you hacked them to, I don't know, spy around for information for good purposes. It's not about that. It's about that you did it again after almost killing everyone. Okay? That's not nothing. Do we have another Mariner on our hands? If you've seen Lower Decks, Mariner was so annoying, but they would always say, don't worry, she's growing into it. I can accept that. But she had the same problems in the last episode that she did in the first episode. So Caleb Mir, if he is to be another Mariner, he is going to be just as annoying now as he is till the very end. This is the episode where the characters I kind of liked before became annoying because of their behavior. And he even, when they're discussing how their rooming situation is going to go, you're going to be rooming with other people, he calls it fascism. I had to rewind. I rewound like the video like 5 times to make sure I wasn't missing something. The privilege to be rooming with someone in Starfleet Academy. I have to imagine that if you were someone actually watching this, that is your dream. That's very suspicious to call that fascism. I don't understand. You don't have to be here. He technically does not have to be here. Please, someone explain this to me. I had to rewind it. What? He's been through a lot in life, but he doesn't sound like it. He is wise beyond his years, apparently, because of what he's been through. He does not sound like it. He does not act like it. He doesn't behave like a person who has been through a lot of battles. I can tell you that. These writers have never seen these people, maybe, but this ain't it. I guess, I don't know how, maybe I missed this, But Tarima was not supposed to be with Caleb looking at these whales? Were they running out of time? Was she supposed to be somewhere else? I missed it. I don't know. There was a scene where they came in and, oh no, you just created an incident. What incident? I didn't know I was supposed to be anywhere. They take away Tarima to be at this meeting with whoever, Admiral Vance and such. And I didn't know that we weren't supposed to be looking at the whales. What's the difference? She's supposed to be She requested to go on a tour of the academy with Caleb, against all logic and sense, because she fancied him in a fleeting moment, and now she's being taken away by her parents because we wrote this backwards. We wanted to have the Romeo and Juliet thing where these two people didn't belong to each other. They're star-crossed, but they're in love. Oh, but they're star-crossed, Starfleet crossed, and they can't be together. What do you mean? We are writing this because we wanted to have that plot in place, and then we made everything shift around it to get it to work, even no matter how awkward it was. And maybe if you're much younger than me, you won't notice these things, and that's fine. But I cannot turn back the clock and understand this from a younger mind. I'm not capable of that. It sounds like I'm being very, very negative. But some of these things are actually a positive in disguise, because we are establishing that this show is Academy, right? It is different. One of my fears with this show was that it was going to be Discovery 2. Apparently, it is not. I like that these people aren't sad. They're not whispering. They're not crying. I guess that's an improvement. But they are definitely combative. They are definitely. They have the demeanor that you would find in high school, not at college or a place called an academy. We have a scene where, and I don't, if you knew what happened with this scene, you tell me, because we're at some kind of party, some kind of function, and you can see the Doctor singing. They're performing some kind of opera, a song, or what have you, him and some other character. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm thinking, we only got 10 episodes. You can't waste a lot of time here. I know I complain when things are boring, and I complain when they're too action-packed, but I think we used to be able to get a middle ground. And there's nothing happens in this episode, broadly speaking, but nothing really, really happens in this scene in this episode. They're just kind of dancing around, I don't know, eating food, drinking things. We look back at the Doctor like 5 times, and he's still just performing this theater on the balcony. I don't know am I supposed to enjoy this? I don't know. It wasn't great. The scene is not focusing on that enough for that to be interesting, nor is it focusing on what's going on with her character for that to be interesting. I think it's just directed bad, this particular scene. I don't know what we got of it, what we gained, but people are making faces at each other. I guess it's in the realm of comedy. I guess it's funny when they were making faces at each other. Later, I knew this was going to happen, but I said, please don't create the drama that you're going to create. And they went and they did it, because apparently after Caleb Meir used Tarima's security pass to activate their cartography in the stellar cartography room, so he could look for Goja 5 using the Beta Z data on stellar cartography. They find Goja 5 with their files, and now I know that the Beta Z stellar cartography and the Starfleet stellar cartography are not the same. I'm thinking, Tarima, you are the daughter of their leader. Are you supposed to do that? If you did that, if I was Caleb Meir, I would step back and say, whoa, are you supposed to do that? Because you made me an accomplice to something very serious. I've had this before in real life. I step back and say, I don't want to get involved in this. Tarima, are you supposed to be leaking this information to Starfleet? You are 2 different governments at this point, you and the Federation. Are you supposed to be doing this? She just does it. She waves her hand over this machine, shows them where Goja 5 is. Great. Now we have a reason for Caleb Meir to stick around. And they deduce Caleb Meir, Tarima at the same time. Oh no, in an effort just to add drama to this episode. You were just using me for the data on Goja 5. You're just looking for your mother. You saw me as a stepping stone to that, in a sense. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it's not that different. And then Caleb's like, no, that's not the truth. And then she was like, I thought you liked me. And I don't know. I don't know. Do we fall in love with everyone we just see? Is that a thing? I'd be happy if I was Caleb. Yes, I found Goja 5. And Tarima would be like, yes, I'm happy because I got to walk around with this guy from Starfleet. This is so cool. You win-win? I can show you where Goja 5 is, and we can go on this cool date. We got what we wanted, but we're fighting. We're both winning, but we're fighting. Because we need the drama. And I said, this episode is going to end with Beta Z getting into the Federation. And Tarima, after her fight with Caleb, she's walking out on him, the Federation itself, more likely, because her father said no to this deal with the Federation. As they're walking away, Caleb Mir manages to make up with Tarima. And that alone inspires her to give a second chance to her dad and go explain it to him that we know we need to keep working on this, blah, blah, blah. And remember I told you to pay attention to the word democracy earlier. They just kind of wantonly decide that a way to get Beta Z into the Federation on the last minute, on a whim, was to offer to put the Federation headquarters, the United Federation of Planets headquarters, which used to be in Paris. They were going to put it back in Paris. They said, no, we'll put it in Beta Z. This situation, I think the decision to put it in Beta Z came about within a few minutes. How did we decide that? That's a very serious thing. We're going to put the center of the Federation government on a planet that we're not defending yet. That's your offer? What and what does that do? Like, if the president of Beta Z was suspicious of Starfleet right now, they're suspicious of the Federation, didn't trust them after what happened with the burn, understandable. That's the setting we're in. Is he going to trust them to put the seat of their own government in his territory? Does that sound safe for him? Does that sound safe for him and us? Just really think about it, you know? And that's what they do, and that's what they get away with. It's all right. So the office of the President of the United Federation of Planets is going to be in Beta Z, I guess, going forward. We solved this in one episode because of our kids. And that's a theme of this episode, was your kids. They fight to get the kids present during this meeting between Vance and whoever this Beta Z leader was. And they want the youth people, the youth delegation, I believe that's what they call it, of the Beta Zs, and our youth to be together because they are the future. Understandable. But it just kind of works out. It kind of feels like an accident. Somehow Tarima is able to convince her father, and we see it publicly, I think. So are the Betazoids going to be happy with that? Our leader just listened to his daughter? Was that democratic? Did we decide that? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but I'm calling foul on most of the things in this episode that happened in the fine detail. The broad picture is not as bad because this is Academy. Full stop. We are showing the youth, as it were, in flights of fancy, in their obsessions, they're wearing their love on their shoulder or on their sleeve, I should say, and maybe a chip on the shoulder between Reymi and Mir. But they do kind of make up at the end as they make up the bed. We do mention at the beginning of this episode to wrap it up the same way we started it and put a bow on it. Starfleet is about making your bed. And that's true. Excellence is about a lot of small things done correctly, not one big thing. And it's a process that you go through. And you adapt to the little things, and you keep doing them over and over and over and over again until you have a routine built up, and then you can build upon that the next level and the next level. It's like a big tower. And this is the episode where Caleb Muir learns to make his bed, and they do make it together, him and Reymi, in their quarters, as they become the first step towards actually being friends. And I mean, the broad strokes are there. Yeah, they're trying to be nice. They're trying to be aspirational. They're trying to send you a good message. But the plot is where it really begins to kind of break down. Thematically, it's about kids being the future, right? They're the next generation. Not Star Trek The Next Generation. This is Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Musically, not as interesting as the first episode, but I like the upbeat nature. It kind of fits with the vibes and the atmosphere and the feelings that go into this Academy setting. I already mentioned the theme, the plot. That's the music. Visually, I like being in space. This isn't in space, but it is where it should be. We're at Starfleet Academy, I must say, for whatever that's worth. So you can call it boring on a lot of fronts, but it is delivering the package deal, I think, that they had initially offered. They're not selling you a false bill of goods. They're selling you something that I think a lot of people aren't really gonna, love. Do young adults right now want a sci-fi high school coming of age story, or do they want Star Trek Starfleet Academy? Okay, you have to think about this more in the abstract. Do they want just any teenage drama sci-fi show, or do they want Star Trek? Remains to be seen. Is this going to perform? I'll ask the age-old question: who is this for? Is this for you? Is the allure of Star Trek enough to drag a certain percentage of Star Trek fans in, and enough newbies, young adults in? Is that enough? I'm not really sure. Having said all this, I can't honestly say I liked it as much as the first episode, but it's technically not as bland. It is technically Academy. It is technically what you think it probably should be, given the production behind it and given the name of the show. I'm giving the second episode of Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1 beta test, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. I just didn't like it as much, but it's not absolutely obscene. Like, if you go below a 4, you're getting into the point where you're making me angry. I was not angry with this. This is not Picard Season 1 and Season 2 and, like, the second and third season of Star Trek Discovery, or indeed Section 31. We're not even near that. We're comfortably in below Strange New Worlds, and but above those, as I had mentioned earlier. It's not the worst place to start. We can definitely get a lot better, but I think I cannot honestly give you a review from someone else's mind. I cannot exit my own mind, believe it or not. I'm not like a Beta Z. I don't have psychic abilities like they do. And by the way, weren't full Beta Zs, didn't they have different eyes? I was looking at them in this episode, the Beta Z people, and the Betazoids, they just look like they have normal eyes. They used to have big pupils or something, like big dark eyes. Am I imagining things? I didn't see them here, but that's neither here nor there. I'm here. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you next time I see you. So long.